keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome in to another edition of Tider Insider Television across the studio. From TiderInsider.com's Rodney Orr, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris as we continue to social distance here for TITV. You know, it's been 17 years, but Alabama men's basketball is back in the Sweet 16. This team has done a lot of things that Alabama basketball hasn't done in a long time, and they may do something they've never done, get to a Final Four. The Tide defeated the Terrapins of Maryland 96-77 on Monday night to get Nate Oates to his first Sweet 16 as a college basketball head coach. Jaden Shackelford led the Tide with 21 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. Jaden Quinterly recorded his first career double-double, 14 points, 11 assists. He also had 8 rebounds. He almost had a triple-double. And he was just terrific last night. Primo came back and played. Juwan Gary got the start against a smaller Maryland team. And Alabama just overwhelmed this Maryland team with their athleticism, their ability to defend. And, oh, yeah, they made 16 of 33 shots from behind the arc. In other words, it was a beatdown. Alabama won that first-round game against Iona when they didn't play well offensively. And Iona did a good job. They held Alabama to 53 shot attempts, kept them down in the numbers of made three-pointers, but they gutted it out. But last night, it was the Alabama basketball team that the fans have learned to grow and love. They were hitting on all cylinders.
He deserved to play better than what he had played. You know, and I think he was putting a lot of pressure on himself. I just felt like he could use a shot to go through, a couple back-to-back. You know, it was huge. I was happy for him, and hopefully this gets him on a roll here. So, you know, he's been playing super hard. He just, you know, for whatever reason, he wasn't making shots. So he's making shots now. That's the John Petty we all know. So it's good to have him back.
Yeah, Petty was doing his thing, and boy, what about Alex Reese? 13 points and 5 rebounds off the bench. Rodney, this basketball team advances to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2004. They won the regular season championship for the first time in 2001, the first tournament title since 91, and the first team to do both since 87. Now they move on to play the 11 seed UCLA on Sunday, 6:15 p.m. Central Time tip-off at the Hinkle Feld House. Rod, let me bring you into this conversation. We know if they make 16 three-pointers, you know, they're probably going to go to the Final Four. If you're going to beat Alabama, you're going to have to hold them down there. But the thing I like about this team is they are versatile. They find different ways to win games. They've got different players that they can plug in. You know, Jordan Bruner only played 2 minutes last night because of the fact that Maryland plays a small front line. Juwan Gary gets the start. You know, whether it's Keon Ellis, Primo's back. You never know where it's going to come from. And because they are so deep and so versatile, you can have players like Petty against Iona have a terrible night offensively and still win. Herb Jones didn't play much last night because of foul trouble.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say, Gary. Herb Jones didn't even play much last night. They didn't need him. I mean, as crazy as that sounds. But, yeah, I mean, the versatility, the number of players that step up and contribute in a big way has been really significant, Gary. And last night, draining those threes, as you mentioned, was really exciting to watch this team get up and down the floor. And Gary, I really, Juwan Quinterly, just how he's developed over the season. And, you know, when he goes, puts the ball on the floor and starts going to the basket, he's very creative. He finishes when he gets underneath the basket. Incredible, some of the finishes that he has had in the last couple of games. So I think he's been one of the big spark plugs to this team here.
Yeah, you think about 14 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists, nearly a triple-double. I'll say this, Rod, and I don't watch every game, and we can't. But just watching him play last night, I would put him up right now against any point guard left in this tournament. If there's somebody playing better than him at that position, I want to see it because he is phenomenal. Now, it's not going to be easy to get to Final Four if Alabama gets past UCLA, which remember the Bruins had to play the play-in game against Michigan State just to get into the round of 64. They played that first 4 game. I think Alabama's better than UCLA, even though I have a lot of respect for that program. Obviously, it's one of the great programs in history. They've got a terrific coach, and they're well coached and they know how they want to play. But if you get past UCLA, then you're either going to play Michigan or Florida State. And both those teams are super. But, Rod, if you're going to make it to Final Four, it's not supposed to be easy, right?
Well, there's a reason why Alabama's never done it, you know. I mean, it's not easy. So this is what, the 9th trip to the Sweet 16? Yeah. And, you know, they've had one Elite 8 appearance under Mark Gottfried, and now yeah, Gary, I mean, I look at this game here, and I do like this matchup for Alabama. I think Alabama matches up really well with UCLA. If they win this game, on to the Elite Eight. And as you said, it's going to be really difficult.
Yeah, UCLA, a more deliberate team. Mick Cronin, the head coach, but they are well coached. And that'll be a tough matchup for Alabama from the standpoint. I think UCLA have a good plan defensively, and they're big up front now. They can pound the ball inside. I still think Alabama's the better team and will find a way to get past the Bruins on Sunday night. Well, the Alabama women's basketball team is also blazing its own trail over in San Antonio, Texas. The Tide topped UNC 80-71 on Monday, and we'll move on to the round of 32. This is the first basketball appearance for Alabama women in the NCAA tournament since 1999. North Carolina was the team that knocked them out this year, so they get a little payback. Now, Jordan Lewis was unbelievable. 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists. I said I don't know if there's a point guard playing better than Quinterly. Maybe it's Jordan Lewis, Rodney. She may be playing better. She was phenomenal. So. But I'll tell you this. Alabama now moves on tomorrow to play Maryland. The problem here for the Alabama women's team after getting past North Carolina is that Maryland on the women's side is a lot better than Maryland on the men's side. This is the number 2 seed in the region, Rodney. It's going to be a tough task for Alabama tomorrow, but I tell you what, this team's battle-tested in the SEC. They won't be intimidated, and who knows, if they shoot well from 3 like they against North Carolina, maybe they pull the upset.
Well, you never know. Again, I think this is huge for the program. Gary, winning that first game, we talked about that last week. We said, hey, you got to win the first one. I mean, that takes you to another level. I think that's certainly happened, and now you have this opportunity. Really, I think for this women's basketball program, they couldn't ask for a better opportunity. Yeah,
that's tomorrow at noon on ESPN2, Alabama versus Maryland out in San Antonio. Want more championships? It's become championship U around here. The Crimson Tide Gymnastics team, the SEC champions. Alabama posted a 197.875 in Huntsville over the weekend. Just a 10th better than LSU, who finished in second place, but led at the end of each rotation all night. Sophomore Luisa Blanco has been fantastic, had an unreal performance, finishing with a 39.8 and taking home SEC all-around champion. Senior Lexi Graber secured 3rd. The 2021 title is Alabama's 10th overall, the 2nd under head coach Dana Duckworth. Alabama will now host a regional from April 1st to the 3rd, hosting teams like Oklahoma, is tied for the top ranking in the nation, Arkansas, who's ranked 10th, and 6 other teams as well. This is the 16th time that Alabama has hosted a gymnastics regional. Coach Duckworth, way to go, and keeping that tradition alive. Well, still to come on Tider Insider TV, spring practice is underway at Alabama, and a local Crimson Tide standout is back for a 5th and final season, and he wants to make it count. And Tuscaloosa was filled with coaches and GMs and scouts from the National Football League today. Why? It's called Pro Day, and Alabama's got one of the biggest. And also, we'll be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the phone number 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. You can email us at the address on your screen or tweet at us using the hashtag TITV. The show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider Television, will be back after this.
Obviously, have some improvements in my, draft grades and whatnot. So I just feel like, there are many opportunities for me to win this year, and, I'm all in for it.
Former Hillcrest Patriot Brian Robinson explains his decision to pass on the NFL draft in return for another season. Robinson went on to say that he doesn't expect to be handed the starting running back job because he knows how good the competition is at Alabama, but he has the most experience and he plans on winning it. Rodney, did you see how big he is?
Yeah, I mean,
gosh.
Hey, listen. Brian Robinson's a 230-pound load. Gary probably runs a sub 4.5. I mean, the run he made against Ohio State in that national championship game, I've said this many times, where he was trampling over their secondary. I mean, that's one of the more impressive runs from last season.
He knows what's at stake, and he is going to be ready for a monster season of his own. We've seen this from a lot of Alabama running backs, including Najee, hanging around, and then when they get their opportunity, taking advantage. Welcome back to TITV, sitting across the studio from Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Well, there's no doubt about it. Spring practice is here for the Crimson Tide. Isn't that nice? We didn't have it last year. Preparation for the 2021 season is underway. Alabama football got back to work this past Friday and already has 2 practices under its belt. Tide practice yesterday as well. 15 new players joined the team in January as early enrollees and are making good progress under the new coaching staff, which has taken well to the transition and learned the system that's in place. That's important when you come to Alabama. You learn the Alabama system. Overall, head coach Nick Saban was pleased with where the Tide was at after its first practice, but noted there are things that need to be worked on. Now it's time for Coach Talk with Nick Saban. With spring practice underway, the team has a lot to focus on leading up to the A-Day game April 17th, and one of the most important factors is individual development of the player.
I kind of challenge the individuals on the team and say, are you going to be individually accountable, to do all the things that you need to do to be able to do your job? Or are you going to need somebody else to kind of show you the way? And I think that's important, that people be responsible for their own self-determination so that they can progress and improve.
All right, Rodney, and a lot of new coaches, too, on this staff, as I alluded to. Now, defensively, it's pretty much set from last year. But offensively, you got a new offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach in Bill O'Brien, a new offensive line coach in Doug Marrone, a new running backs coach in Robert Gillespie, and a new tight ends and special teams coach in Jay Graham. I think in a lot of schools, this would be cause for concern. But at Alabama, this has happened so often. Plus, as Nick Saban has pointed out, I just alluded to it, Rod, this is Alabama's system. He doesn't want coaches to try to come in and be, do anything special. Just do what you need to do to help the players be the best that they can be. That's the philosophy at Alabama, right?
Yeah, I mean, he stressed that, Gary, in his comments a couple days ago. And, yeah, I mean, you look at these guys, all very experienced. I mean, you're talking about two former NFL head coaches. Right there's Doug Marrone and then also Bill O'Brien. These guys have been in similar situations before. They know what it takes, obviously. Really like Jay Graham. He's been around for several years now as an assistant coach after having an outstanding career, of course, at Tennessee. And then Robert Gillespie at Florida had a great career as well. But, those two guys there, Gillespie and Jay Graham, are well noted as assistant coaches, but also, Gary, for their recruiting. So I really like this offensive staff. And, it's always difficult to say, when you lose a staff that included Sarkisian, Kyle Flood, and the others that left, certainly there's always a transition. But when you're talking about a top-flight staff, I think this group here offensively is really, really good. Like
you said, two former NFL head coaches from last season. This time last year, they were NFL head coaches. Now they're working at Alabama. That shows you the kind of status this program has. I guarantee you, Bill O'Brien, Doug Marrone, there are not many college jobs that they would have been interested in. They did want to come to Alabama. And the Crimson Tide, speaking of the NFL, had its first of two pro days this year. They'll have another one next week. Heavily attended by NFL coaches, scouts, and front office personnel. And here are some of the numbers. Quarterback Mac Jones, 6'3", 217, ran a sub-4.8 40-yard dash, 32-inch vertical, much more athletic than he's given credit for. What about offensive tackle Alex Leatherwood, 6'5", 312, 4.95 40, 9-foot, 10-inch broad jump, 34.5-inch vertical. Patrick Surtain, man, he is a stud. 6'2", 208, 4.41 40-yard dash, 10-foot, 11-inch broad jump, 39-inch vertical, 18 reps at 225 on the bench press. Rodney, we know, and Najee Harris didn't work out, but he drove overnight to get here after his flight in Dallas was canceled. This is a big deal at Alabama. Nobody does the pro days better. They were talking today about how Nick Saban has even added a second pro day. That's something that no other school is doing. But it's a great opportunity for these great players to get the attention up close and personal from NFL folks.
It really is. And, Gary, look, Mac Jones, I was thinking maybe a 4.9, if he could get under 4.9, maybe upper 4.8s, but a 4.79 was his fastest time. That's really, really good. I think it's beyond expectation, at least, on this end. And a 32-inch vertical jump. I think it shows Mac Jones has more athleticism than a lot of people have given him credit for. We know he's really, really good in manipulating around the pocket. So good day for Mac Jones and several of the others that you mentioned.
Yeah, some other numbers. Christian Barmore, defensive tackle, 6'4", 310, ran a 4.99 40. That's moving. Miller Forstall, listen to these numbers. 6'5", 241, 4.8 40-yard dash, 20 reps at 225 on the bench press. And we know he's a dependable guy. He's going to get a crack at the NFL. Now, Devontae Smith didn't work out, but did weigh in. He's, around 170. That's who he is. He's not going to get a lot bigger. Waddle didn't work out. He's still, coming back from that injury, may run next week. And as we said, Mac Jones had a lot of those NFL scouts just kind of reaffirming what we already know about him. He's a winner. Well, still to come, Alabama softball suffered a major roster loss over the weekend. More on what the future looks like for the Crimson Tide this season. And next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, the phone number 205-348-9882. Let us hear from you, Tider Insider Nation. Get in touch with us. We'll be back with more TITV right after this timeout.
Unfortunately, her MRI was torn ACL, MCL, and she'll be out for the rest of the year. And
just makes you sick. Patrick Murphy confirming that star freshman Bailey Dowling will be out for the remainder of the season. She started 25 games for Alabama, had a .306 batting average with a .338 on-base percentage, plus a team-leading 6 home runs and 25 runs batted in. She's a terrific infielder as well. That'll leave a gaping hole moving forward as Alabama will be forced to find some more offensive production and have to fill her spot in the field as well. Rod, I mean, I'm sick for Bailey Dowling, but from a softball perspective, this, you have injuries in sports, but a torn ACL and MCL is not something that's common to softball. It was a non-contact injury. She just had a freakish accident on the bag, and now she's gone, and she's one of the best players on the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough break for this team, certainly given that what they want to challenge for, which is another national championship, of course. And so it's a difficult deal. But I'll say this, Gary, that's why Patrick Murphy recruits the best.
That's right.
So he'll have somebody step up.
And it is next person up at Alabama. We understand that. Still, it'll be hard to find another person as good as Bailey Dowling, that's for sure. All right, time for some phone calls, and we got open lines right now at 205-348-9882. But let's lead it off with our good friend Sammy up in Walker County. Hey, Sammy.
Hey, Gary, Rodney, good talking with y'all guys again. Since it is spring football, I want y'all to comment on 3 players I'm kind of watching close this year. Those and a lot of others. Paul Tyson, Jace McClellan, and Tommy Brockemeyer. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you, Sammy. I'll let Rodney take these. These are 3 players worth watching. There's no doubt about it. All young players that have a great future in front of them. Start with Paul Tyson, competing with Bryce Young for the starting quarterback position out of Hewitt-Trussville High School, Rodney.
Yeah, certainly competing. Also, Jalen Milroe, the true freshman. And, I guess the popular assumption is that Bryce Young is going to be the guy. That's to be determined. But even if he is, and I've said this, Gary, I think one of the most important backups on the team is going to be the quarterback, whoever the second quarterback is. Again, I'm not saying Paul Tyson won't win the job. I'm just saying if he happens to be the second guy, his development is extremely important. You look at him. We saw some video that was put out on Twitter. Gary, you may have seen it as well. I mean, he looked really impressive. I mean, he's got size, great size, really strong kid. I think the strength conditioning program is doing wonders with him. Really smart, too. So I like Paul Tyson. It'd be interested to see how he performs this spring. Jace McClellan, I think he's a future star. I mean, I think with that running back room, it's really loaded. There's a lot of talent in that room. Several guys, very, very good. But, I think Jace McClellan's going to be a star, Sammy, at some point. And then also Tommy Brockemeyer, like Jace McClellan from the state of Texas, 5-star offensive tackle coming in here this year as a true freshman, early enrollee. I like Tommy Brockemeyer quite a bit. I think he's got a chance maybe to find a starting spot. He may work at Summit Guard as well. Of course, he is a tackle, but you remember Evan Neal, first year he was here. There was a spot open at left guard. He filled that. Moved over to right tackle, may move to left tackle this year. We'll see how that all unfolds. But Tommy Brockemeyer certainly seems like he's going to have a bright future as well.
All right, thanks for the call. We need to get to the break. We'll take more phone calls, 205-348-WVUA. We'll be back after this. Bama and Southern Miss doing all they can to get their baseball game in. They were going to play it at 6, and they moved up to 3. They wound up getting started at 5:30. 4th inning, Alabama leads 1-0. We'll have the full update for you tonight at 10. And this past weekend, Alabama dropped 2 of 3 against number 1 Arkansas in its first SEC series in Fayetteville. Now, they won the Friday night game 16-1. Unfortunately, only scored 2 total runs in the Saturday and Sunday games combined. But Alabama baseball getting it in tonight despite the weather over at the Joe. All right, welcome back into TITV along with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Let's go right back out on the phone lines, and that's where we welcome in Rick from Brent. Hey, Rick.
Hey, how are y'all tonight?
Doing great.
How many times have Alabama played the eventual national champion and we just had a bad luck with the draw in the bracket. I know it's at least 3 teams.
Yeah, I can tell you right off the bat, it's Indiana in '76, Carolina in '82, UConn in 2004, and that's probably the 3 you're thinking of, Rick. And there may be more. Alabama has had some bad luck with the draws. If that '76 team, and I'll say this to the day I die, if they're anywhere else other than with Indiana, they go to the Final Four that year, and who knows, might have beaten Indiana in a semifinal championship game. They almost beat them down in Baton Rouge. But you know, it's like Rodney and I said earlier, you're going to get to a Final Four. You're going to have to break through and beat one of these really good teams. And if Alabama's going to go this year, they'll have to beat UCLA. Then they'll have to beat either Florida State or Michigan. That's just the way it is. All right, let's get to email before we have to go to the break from Terry in Brookwood. Will Javon Quinterly turn pro after the season? Rodney, that's a good question because this is his first year to play at Alabama. Unfortunately, he had to sit out last year, which I still think was ridiculous. He's only a sophomore, but, you know, he's 22 years old, Rod, and he'll turn 23 this year. So age is working against him. And the way he's playing in this NCAA tournament, I thought for sure he would be back, but I don't know now.
Well, I mean, again, NBA, could he go overseas? Whatever it is, I don't know what his ambitions and thoughts are. But you know what, Gary, like you said, I mean, he is playing extremely well. And I'm with you. I mean, if he comes back next year, this team will be dynamite again. Will be anyway. Yeah,
I think they're going to be good anyway. I think it's kind of getting like football. Oates is going to recruit to a level every year where even when you lose folks, you're replacing them with other really good folks. That's what it takes to be good every season. All right, thanks for the phone calls and emails tonight. We'll be back to wrap up this edition of TITV right after this. How about another really good team for Alabama? Rowing, ranked 11th, went to a regatta up in Knoxville this past weekend, and you'll love this, fans. They beat up on Tennessee. Their next regatta, how about this, will be the 10th and 11th of April in Las Vegas for the Lake Las Vegas Pac-12 Women's Invitational. That ought to be fun. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of TITV. Reminder, you can catch a replay of the show tonight at 10:30 or anytime at WVUA23.com. For Rod Newer, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. We're going to leave you with more scenes from Alabama's Pro Day on Tuesday over at the Hank Crisp Indoor Facility. Have a great night.